Okay, morning to all of you. In continuation to our consultants knowledge sharing series, last week we discussed about Salesforce implementation best practices, right? We discussed about those 12 pillars for a good Salesforce implementation, what we need to do. So, in continuation to that particular topic, we will today try to understand what an ideal Scrum call should be. So, how a Scrum call should be conducted, and how and what each of the actors who participate in a Scrum call should prepare and come for a Scrum call, right? There are basically three actors. Who are the three actors? Who are the three actors who participate in a Scrum call? Consultants. Okay, then project managers and a tech lead, right? These are the three basic actors who participate in everyday Scrum call, right? So we need to understand what each of these roles need to come prepared for a Scrum call so that a Scrum call is effective and it doesn't become a session of debate or a session of blaming each other, and it becomes more fruitful and effective so that decisions can be taken by the management after the Scrum calls, and then projects can be more successful. So from what we discussed last week, how do we monitor those 12 pillars of successful implementation is what we are going to discuss, right? It has to be Scrum calls. Sorry, I think you'll have to forward. It has to be every Scrum call has to be structured. It has to be accountable. People need to take ownership, take responsibility for the decisions that you take in the Scrum call, and it should be action oriented, right? It is not a storytelling session. So, what are the golden rules? 4 golden rules for a Scrum call, right? First one is basically these are the 4 questions that every Scrum call should answer, right? Where are we? Obviously, Scrum calls are meant to discuss about the projects that we are working on. So each one of you are responsible for some projects. As a project manager, you own some projects. As a consultant, you own some projects. As a technical lead, you own some projects, right? So each one of you will have to address this question. From a consultant's perspective, where are we on the project? From a project manager's perspective, where are we on the project? From a tech lead's perspective, where are we on the project? From a QA's perspective, where are we on a project, right? These are the questions must be first answered, right? What is the progress versus plan? And it must be an honest assessment. No trying to hide things, putting things under the carpet, right? A favorite word of Priyanka. Don't put things under the carpet. It has to be shared. Be honest. Otherwise, you'll never find solutions. The project, you're leading the project towards failure. The second question is, what is blocking us? If at all there are any blockers, what are those blockers? Identify them proactively. We always keep talking about this word, proactively identify the blockers, not after the blockers appear. Before they can surface, we should have that knack of identifying those blockers that can hinder the progress of the project, right? Again, don't hide them. Third one is what decision or action is needed. These are the blockers which is affecting my project. What action needs to be taken? Who needs to take that action? Is the project manager who is responsible? Is the consultant? Is the tech team? Is the tech lead? Is it the architect who's involved in the project, solution provider, or the management? Right? There are different stakeholders who need to take action depending on what that action is, right? So we need to identify what those actions are and what decisions need to be taken so that you know what the next steps are. Only when that action is taken, the next step can be progress. Sometimes the action could be from the customer side. So we need to identify those things. And the fourth one is what is the impact, right? What is the impact of this blocker or this problem or this issue, the thing that we have identified? How is it going to affect the time of the project, timelines of the project? How is it going to affect the cost of the project and the quality of delivery? So all three things can be then assessed, and accordingly a decision can be taken. Like I said, Scrum calls must not become technical troubleshooting marathon sessions, blame games where we try to blame each other. Consultant says development is not good. Development says consultant doesn't understand the requirement, right? QA says developer has not done a good job. And the developer says QA does not know how to test. He has not tested it properly. This is not the session for these blame games. These are Scrum calls are meant to identify the core problems and solve those problems. Okay. So obviously it has to be structured conversations, not unstructured. conversations. Next. Let us now break this into those the three actors who are involved, right? Each of the roles. Basically, I have not put a QA's role, but we'll talk about that also. Here we'll first talk about consultant. Okay, what is it a consultant should be concerned about in a when it comes to a Scrum call? What is it that he needs to come prepared? What is it that he needs to discuss about a project? There should be clarity between what a consultant talks, what a project manager talks, and what a QA talks, and what a technical lead or the senior developer talks. Otherwise, you will be talking the same thing. Each one of you have a responsibility, own a responsibility according to your role on every project. So if you stick to that, then Scrum calls can be very effective. We have limitation of time. Probably we have 20 projects to discuss in 1 hour, which means roughly 5 minutes a project. So there could be some projects which we can complete probably in less than 5 minutes. There could be some projects which might require 10 minutes. Doesn't matter, but we will have to manage that within that time limit. But each project, all the 3 or 4 actors should give their feedback according to their role about the project. So what does a consultant talk about? Basically, consultant is responsible for the functional progress of the project, right? He is not responsible for the technicalities of the project. He is not responsible for the timelines, for the CRs, for the financial impacts. He is not responsible for it. He is responsible for the functional progress of the how is the project progressing from a functional perspective. Have I collected all the requirements? Have I understood all the requirements? Have I documented all the requirements? Are there any issues during the requirement gathering process from the customer side that I'm facing? How do I address them? Once that is completed, any sign-offs are pending. I've given it to the technical team. Is the development progressing according to the requirements of the customer? Have those sprint demos. During the sprint demos, identify whether what you envisaged in the requirement document and what is being developed are matching. Those are the things that a functional consultant should be looking for, right? Client coordination, interacting with the client on a regular basis for the dependencies, clear those dependencies, right? Then must have business clarity. This is a very, very critical understanding role that a consultant has to play. If you don't have business clarity, then you cannot be a successful consultant. This is core for any consultant. Any project that you're handling, if you don't have that particular business domain clarity, how that business operates, how it works, what are their day-to-day operations, then you cannot be a successful consultant for that project. So that is the first thing that you must try to understand the moment a project is assigned to you, and then what are the risks to delivery. These are the basic functional things that you should be very clear about. Based on those things, your daily discussion about a project will progress according to the status of the project. If it is in the business requirement stage, obviously you will have to discuss about requirements. What did I complete yesterday? Is it progressing in the right direction? Have I planned my requirements in a sequence, in a sequential manner? Am I taking it according to a flow from pre-sales to sales to post-sales, right? Is the client understanding what he wants from the system? This is again a very, very important point. Please understand, like we were discussing yesterday also, clients have a system. Clients are moving to a new system. They are moving from an X system to a Salesforce CRM. First understand, make the customer understand why is he moving from an existing system to a system like Salesforce. Does he want to replicate that here? Then he need not invest in Salesforce. He is wasting his time. If replication is what his solution is, that is not the solution. He is investing in Salesforce for better solutions, for better automation, better outcomes. If that is the case, then tell him please leave the old system. Forget that. See how you can do much better than what you were doing earlier and how we can make this platform much more effective for you and your users, so that at the end of the day, your management gets the right view of what is happening on a day-to-day basis. With that goal, and clarity on the objectives for the project, then I think if you start the business requirement, the customer also will be aligned with you and will be able to create a good requirement document, right? And then if there are any clarifications pending from the client side, we think that we have completed the requirement gathering sessions, but then there could be certain things where we have not understood and we have asked for the client, but he has not clarified. So don't close the requirement unless you get the clarifications from the customer. Second thing is configuration progress. This is something I don't think most of our consultants have reached as on date, but This is an ideal state we should reach to. Today we are not in this state. Trying to understand a little bit of functionalities of the platform, right? What is the flow? What are validation rules? What is the trigger? Where it is used? How it is used? How it is going to help the customer, right? Why a flow should be used, right? These things, basic things, every customer, every consultant must know. Not only consultant, even the project manager must know. These are the basic things that you should have. And even to the extent of an admin's role, a consultant should be able to play the admin's role. Like creation of reports, dashboards. I don't think you should be dependent on anybody for that. You yourself should be able to create those on the fly in front of the customer and tell him, yeah, this is how a report looks, so that you gain the confidence of the customer, right? But then that doesn't happen overnight. It needs a lot of effort, a lot of focus from each one of you to reach to that stage. If you don't put that effort, you will, I think, remain where you are, and that is not going to help you in your individual progress. Next is UAT, SAT updates. Test cases. Have the test cases been completed? I've completed my BRD. I've given a walkthrough to the solution team and the QA. Has the QA written the test cases? Like I said, test cases must be written the moment the BRD is completed. It cannot wait till the end of the project. So the functional consultant must sit with the QA and find out, okay, have you written the test cases? What is it? Have you, during the QA process, have you raised those defects? What are the severity of those defects? Are they complex? Why those defects are arising? How are we solving them? How long will it take to complete the testing, right, before going for UAT? These are the things that you need to follow up on a day-to-day basis, depending on the stage of the project. Client dependencies, any pending sign-offs, whether it's a BRD sign-off, whether it is a sprint sign-off when you give a demo at the end of the sprint, whether it is a UAT sign-off or go-live sign-off. The consultant is responsible because you are interacting with the customer on a day-to-day basis. Sharing of master data for data migration, right? Then pending, if in user access is pending. Similarly, any approvals are required from the customer. You have shared a CR, the approval has not yet come. You have shared a gap document, the approval has not yet come. How is it going to affect? It is going to affect the project, because if those approvals are not there, your financials are stuck, right? Milestones are completed, but sign-off is not received. Your financials are impacted, right? So you must be aware of these things. I'm not saying you are responsible for getting the approvals, but you must be aware of it, and you must inform the concerned project manager immediately that this approval is pending. Please follow up with the customer and get the approval, right? Then we come to scope management. This is very critical for a functional consultant, right? You must know on a day-to-day basis if any scope creep is happening, even if it is a small one. It could be just a 2-hour effort that's required. During the sprint demo that you're giving, the customer says, hey, this I want to change. This is not what I want to. It's a small thing, just might take 2 hours. You might think, it's a small thing, let me do. Like I said last week when we were discussing about those 12 pillars, we talked something known as pro bono. Remember? We will do it. We will do it free of cost, but let the customer know that you have done it free of cost. So that is important. So even, but again, same thing. How long can you continue to do free of cost? It could be 2 hours, but 10 such small things, you repeat 10 times, it becomes 20 hours. You repeat 20 times, it becomes 40 hours. 40 hours is big. It's not small. We cannot, can we afford to lose 40 hours of effort put on a project additionally? No. 10% scope creep is manageable, is acceptable on any project. But beyond that, it is not possible. So how do you track that? Obviously, you must have that tracker, right? You must have, as part of the project governance charter, a tracker where you monitor all those changes that are happening during from the requirement gathering till the go live. Small changes, but document it, how many hours it has taken, and whether it was done free of cost or did we charge the customer. So at the end of any stage of the project, you know how many hours of pro bono has been done, how many hours we charged, right? And the customer, you can always tell the customer, see, these are things I gave you free of cost. The customers forget these things, so you can remind them about these things. Potential CRs should be flagged. Any new request from the customer must be identified. Also, new enhancements can be suggested by the consultant to the customer during the progress of the project. If you see that there is an opportunity for you to get a new enhancement from the customer, right? Okay, you're doing this, but this is the best practice in the industry. Let us do this. This might take another 22 or 20 hours for me to build it, but doesn't matter. I'll do it for you. It will cost you only so much. Let us go ahead and do it, because if I do it now, it is going to be more helpful for you than I doing it later on. Customer will appreciate those things. He will say, "Arey, by 20 hours, do it free of cost." It's a negotiable thing. Discuss, take the management's approval. If the management says okay, free, we'll do it free of cost. If the management says no, it has to be charged, it will be charged. And the customer says okay, I'll do now, do it. If the customer says no, okay, I'll take this up in phase 2, do it in phase 2. But you are giving that input to the customer in terms of those value additions for the project. Okay, and then last is adoption and training, right? Uh, Training readiness is very important. How ready are the users? When do you start this readiness of the end users at the customer's place? Do you start it when the deployment is done and then UAT is completed and then they're ready to start using it, or do you start it early during the project implementation? Is a decision that each one of you need to take before a project starts. On the kickoff day, so you should know how big, how complex, how many users are there in the project. The larger the audience, the more prepared you should be for the training. Not only you, the user should be prepared for the training. So how do you do that? That action plan should be there so that adoption is good. Success of a CRM, I told you, is adoption. The higher the adoption, the higher the successful the project is. The lower the adoption, we failed in our implementation. However good the implementation could be, you have failed if the adoption doesn't take place. So give them trailheads. Ask them to start using trailheads. Like we did in one of the recent project where we said before requirement gathering, we went to the users. It was a small group, but then we gave them a demo to all the users. This is how the system will look for you. Based on this, now you tell me what your requirements are. So even before the project started, they know how Salesforce looks, the feel and look of the platform. So they're prepared. Then give them some trailers to start training on it. Probably 20 weeks, 24 weeks down the line, when you start the training, they have already learned basics of Salesforce. It becomes easy for you to train them, right? Then you have different types of trainings, like train the champions, right? Train the trainer concept, or train everybody. Different training methods are there, which depending on the project, it varies. So, and then user onboarding concerns is something that must be top of your mind, because that's one area where we also fail. Ensure that all those details are captured and shared with the development team so that those user onboarding concerns are taken care of. Sorry. Then we go to a senior developer, right? Senior developer or a tech lead, what are the things that as a developer, as a tech lead, you should be prepared? Obviously, development progress is your major concern. If the functional aspect is progress is what a consultant's concern is, for a developer, the development progress, integration concerns, issues pertaining to integrations, various integrations. It could be ERP integrations, it could be finance integrations, it could be HR integrations, it could be your telephony, anything, right? So you should be thorough on that. What are the technical blockers that you foresee in the project? Should be there, you should be aware of it, and obviously at the end, deployment readiness. Like we said, for all these things, we should have checklists. Tech leads must have checklists for various stages of the project. If I'm going to go for UAT, what is the checklist? If I'm going to deploy, what is the checklist? If I'm going to do data migration, what is the checklist? I might think I know. I have done 20 projects. I know what is required. Why should I have a checklist? No. Still, you must have a checklist, because we are human beings. We can err. So it is better to be on the right side than on the wrong side. Even if you miss one point and then repent later, it is better not to miss that one point and repent later. Be happy, so that everybody's life is good. The customer may not know what is to be given, shared to you, and you think I know everything and I've asked everything, but you might have missed two critical things, and then it'll unnecessarily delay the project, right? I think from every project we should learn. We we know everything, but still we did so many mistakes in projects like Ramki, in projects like SNN, in projects like Rockland, in Ardex. Every project we do mistakes, but then can we afford to repeat those mistakes again and again? No. If we repeat the mistakes, then we are not professionals. We are being kids. So that's the important thing, that not to repeat those mistakes again and again. Development status, obviously, whether all the components have been built, whether all the APIs have been taken care of, tested end to end from both the sides, right? LWC components have been tested. What are the visual force updates? From a technical perspective, you know what needs to be checked from an integration perspective. ERP, API connectivity, SITs, wherever required. postman endpoint issues. Have we tested? Have you received it? Have you tested it? Are there any issues? What we shared postman with the customer, has he tested? Right? Has he faced any issues? Has he come back to us? Have we resolved those issues? What is the status of those things? If there's a middleware involved, what is the status? Of late, we are seeing not a lot of customers using MuleSoft. Understanding of MuleSoft is also very important from a technical perspective. Then, what are the technical risks in a project, right? In terms of performance. Okay, I know I have built this, but how is it performing? Most of the time, we don't do load testing, right? We deploy. We start with probably a small group, 8 users, 10 users during UAT, and it works wonderfully well, and then we deploy, and then it starts breaking. 100 users come, 150 users come, it starts breaking. So performance issues, you must be on top of them as a good technical lead. API failures, data sync failures. Why these are happening? Okay, you are doing phase-wise implementation. When I'm doing phase-wise implementation, or during the after the deployment, certain bugs were there. You are resolving those bugs and you are moving them to production. Then it's impacting something else. Are we doing impact analysis? Why it is happening? How are we resolving those issues? I think you should be on top of these things as a tech lead, right? Then security issues, access issues, or do we see any security access issues from the customer's environment, right? What challenges could be there? Defect status, what are the open bugs? Obviously, we have a tracker. You need to prioritize from the tracker. What are those bugs that I should address on priority? What are those things which are critical blockers, which are not helping me to progress? They are testing it on a daily basis, but then it's a live, users are using it, but there are some blockers which is not helping me to progress, right? So you need to identify what those blockers are and ensure that those are fixed on priority, right? And do we do root cause analysis, at least for those repeated issues? If not for every issue that we face, there are some cases which come repeatedly. Do we do a root cause analysis for them? We don't do that. I think that is an important aspect. We must start. First of all, we need to believe in RCA. Many of us, I don't know for whatever reason, either we don't believe or we don't know how to do it. One of the reasons that we don't do RCA. We must do RCA and it must be documented. RCA is not just something between me and a developer sitting together and we do, okay, now I know what the root cause is. That doesn't help. The whole audience should know about it. The whole organization should know about it. Unless you document it and put it in a central repository, the organization will not know about it. So, root cause analysis is very important. Deployment readiness. What is the status of sandbox? Are we ready to migrate the code? What is the release planning that we have? Right? These are the things that as a tech lead you should be aware of. And the environment readiness in terms of SIT, UAT, right? The environment that you're working, how stable they are, and the test data availability. Another very critical thing, do we have sufficient data to test in the system? Another learning that we got from a recent project where sufficient data was not there, and then when different roles started testing, it failed, right? So, do we have sufficient data for the UAT to be completed successfully? Okay, any questions till now? We completed consultant's role, we completed a tech lead's role. So, what do we mean by these points? These 6 points. It's not just these 6, it could be more than this, but at least I picked up some of the core 6 points. Is that during our Scrum calls, these are the things that we should focus upon as a tech lead. The previous slide is what a consultant should focus upon, right? Pull a chair. So, if you restrict your discussion to these points during the Scrum call, it's not that you will have to focus on all the 6 points, depending on the status of the project and where you find an issue. Probably there is an issue only in integration today in the project. So, your discussion in the Scrum call will be restricted to this. If there is a problem in this or in the QA part of it, then you will only restrict your discussion to that bucket. It's not that you will discuss all the 6 points in every Scrum call. What is the status of the project? Where are we facing challenges today? Talk about those things and how do we address those things. If any decision needs to be taken about that, what is the decision that we need to take is what we will discuss in the Scrum call. The same thing, the previous slide also. Okay. Next is project manager. What is he responsible for? As a project manager, you are responsible for overall governance, you are responsible for timelines, you are responsible for resource utilization, and you are responsible for the financial status. So, these are the 4 functional responsibilities of a project manager. Like we always say, scope, budget, timelines. All three are interrelated. If the scope creeps, timelines creep. If the timelines extend, it impacts the financials, right? So resource is part of that. Obviously, you are working with the resources. So you are responsible for the resources on the project as a project manager. Overall governance of the project, right? So let us look at what are the 6 things that as a project manager you will cover during the Scrum call. First thing is timeline tracking. Is the project going as per the timelines or not? A functional consultant will not talk about it. He will not bother even if the project is getting delayed. But as a project manager, you should immediately stop. Hey Priyanka, this is now 3rd week. Next week we should close the project. I mean, the requirement gathering. It's a 4-week session. We are still at 50% of requirement gathering, only 1 week's time. What are we going to do? How are we planning to close the requirement gathering in the next 4 days or 5 days? That is what the project manager's role is. In the Scrum call, you will raise this. We are supposed to close this next week. We are still at 50%. I don't see that we will be able to close this by the end of next week. I want a plan from the consultant. How are we going to close this by the end of next week? That is timeline tracking. Development. This is an 8-week development project. I see we are already in the 6th week. There is still a lot of work pending. How are you going to complete it? What are your blockers? Why are you not able to complete it? What is affecting the progress? These are the questions you should ask the tech team as a project manager. Sprint slippages. Every 2 weeks I want a sprint is what you demand in the charter. You assure the customer in this project kickoff. If the sprint is not happening, why it is not happening? You should be asking this question, but not on the day of the sprint. At least 3-4 days before the sprint, you should, are you ready for the sprint? We have assured a customer that by this Friday we will do a sprint call. Are you ready with it? Monday itself we should raise that alarm, right? And UAT delays, same thing. So every stage of the project, every milestone in a project, you should be on top of it. Anything that can affect the project in terms of timelines is the responsibility of the project manager, right? Next, risks and dependency review. What are those client-side blockers? You keep, this is where the customer is interacting on a daily basis with the consultant. So you will then, if you see that there is a dependency, a site visit format template is not shared, a cost template is not shared, right? Whatever, those templates are missing, they are not coming. The consultant has been following up, you are following up with the consultant and they are not coming. It's the project manager's responsibility to be on top of it and bring it up in the Scrum call. I have been talking about this for the last 1 week. I'm not getting any result. I want this to be closed today. Consultant, Mr. Consultant, please go to the customers. Please sit there and collect it and come. If it means for you to go, please go. If it's not working on a telephone, please go and sit in the customer's place, collect it and come. That should be the role of a project manager in terms of seeing that those blockers are all resolved, right? Approvals from the customer. Internal blockers, client-side blockers, internal blockers, and escalations if required. You need to escalate. Escalate both internally, escalate both with the customer side also. Like yesterday we saw a particular case, it's almost 3 weeks. Mails are going up and down, but nothing is happening. The person concerned is not responding. What do we need to do? Should we wait 3 weeks for that? No. 3 mails, there is no response, escalate it. The customer is saying, the CEOs of the companies are saying, if you don't get a response in 3 days, you please escalate to me. But we don't. The consultant will not do it because he is scared of the relationship that he has with the SPOC. He doesn't want to escalate. My relationship will spoil. As a project manager, you can escalate. Escalate it at the customer's place if required, escalate it internally if it's an internal matter. Okay. Resource allocation. Overutilized resources, underutilized resources is the concern of the project manager. If there are 5 resources working on any project, you must see how those 5 resources are being utilized. Are they being utilized properly? Do they have 100% job every day? 8 hours of job? Are they effectively doing the 8 hours of job? Look at the time champ, look at their time sheets. It is the responsibility of the project. We are not doing it. We hardly get into the time sheets. How many project managers get into the time sheet of a project and look at the time sheets of the resources? None of us. But it is the project manager's responsibility. You must look at the time sheet and the time champ also and see whether any resource is being underutilized and overutilized. Why overutilization is not good? Why do you think resource overutilization is not good? Huh? No, overutilization. Instead of 8 hours, your resource is working 12 hours, 14 hours every day. Productivity will suffer. Quality will suffer. Productivity will not suffer. Productivity is very good. I am getting 12 hours every day, 14 hours every day, but the quality will suffer. It will lead to burnout. And ultimately, it can lead to the resource leaving. He'll leave. He or she will leave. How long? Why should I work every Saturday, Sunday? One Saturday, Sunday I will work. If you make me work every Saturday, Sunday continuously for 2-3 months, I'll say bye bye. Right? So that is the project manager's responsibility, to ensure that no resource is overutilized, no resource is underutilized. What is the bench in the project, within the project, or within the number of projects? You are working on 3 projects, and you see in one project there is a resource which is overutilized, in another project the resource is underutilized. Map them. See that some of the responsibility of that overutilized resource is shared with the underutilized one, so that they balance. The basic fear all of us have is to do this. Oh, it will take me 2 days to give him KT. Instead of that, let that person only do it. No, that is wrong. You are not only doing a harm to that person, you are doing harm to the project, you are doing harm to the organization, you are doing harm to the customer. There are so many people who are affected in this. It might take 2 days, doesn't matter. Put that effort of 2 days to give him KT, to understand what he needs to do and give the responsibility to another person. All of these people in the chain will be happy, which we don't do. We are damn scared. Bring a new QA to the project. Oh no, I will have to spend 2 days to give KT to that resource. Alright, doesn't matter, give. You might save 20 days of work by doing 2 days of KT, which we don't do. So please, project managers, take this ownership. You think there is an additional resource needed, justify it and ask for that additional resource. Anjali might say, oh no, I can't do this, I have only 2 resources, I want 1 more resource. Ask Anjali to justify it. If you are convinced as a project manager, ask for it. It's your responsibility to ask for additional resources. Okay? Financial governance, very important, linked to timeline and resource utilization. If there is a scope creep, if the consultant is not raising the flag, the tech lead is saying this is a change in scope, consultant is saying no, this is not, it is the project manager who has to intervene and say what is correct and flag it. Why the consultant will not do? Like I said, consultant is building a relationship with the customer. He doesn't want to harm that relationship. A tech lead will raise it because it is affecting the timelines. If I'm going to do this, 2 days of my effort is going to go into this and I may not achieve the timelines that I promised initially for the project. So the project manager has to intervene there. And then create the CR document, see what is the impact of that CR on the timelines, on the scope, on the price, commercials, and then accordingly create the document and share to the customer. Third important thing is margins. Today, we have not reached that stage, but yes, ultimately, project manager should be responsible for margins also on a project. A consultant may not be responsible, but project manager will be responsible for the margins in a project. What is it that I envisaged when I started the project? What is the profitability that I assured to the organization? What is it at 50% of the stage, or monthly, every monthly, at the end of the month, what is the current status? At the end of the project, what is it? I started with 40%, I ended with minus 20%. Right? There's no point doing this at the end. So if you do it regularly, every weekly basis, every fortnightly basis, you will be able to arrest that negative thing that is happening, why it is happening, why it is not going as per the time. Obviously, a project will go in negative only because of 2 reasons. One is there is a scope creep, 2 there is a timeline, or there is a resource which is not working properly. These are 3 basic reasons. What can be done in 8 hours is taking 24 hours to complete the task. Then it can lead to loss in the project. There is a scope creep, there is a loss, and there is a timeline because of which the timelines are getting extended, there is a loss. Dependabilities are not closed, it can lead to a loss. So these are the 4 or 5 things that we should be on top of, right? Then governance actions, you should be aware what are those milestones that are coming, upcoming milestones, are we reaching them, are we achieving them? If not, raise the flag immediately, right? Ensure that we don't miss any milestones. The moment we reach a milestone, inform commercial to raise the invoice, get the sign off from the customer, and then inform finance to raise the invoice. So this becomes the responsibility of the project manager. Steering committee updates. There are many times where a project manager or a consultant raise their hand and say, I'm sorry, I'm not able to do anything, the customer is not responding. I've been following up, he's not sharing. Amberstone is not closing CTA. Last 2 weeks I've been following up. What do I do? Please call for a steercom meeting. Don't raise your hands. Call for a steercom meeting. Tell the customer, boss, I want to speak to your management. Bring your management. there is a delay, this is affecting my project. I will bring my management. Your management and my management, let them talk and agree. Then I'm okay. My responsibility is to ensure that there is no budget, financial, commercial impact. So how do you solve it? Call for a scrum, steer committee. Okay. Then follow up on the actions decided in the steer committee. Ensure that whatever you discuss and agree, those decisions are followed up, and weekly status reports must go to the customer. What is the current status? What happened last week? What is the plan this week? But it should be more. It should not be a story. I keep repeating this. A weekly status report should not be a story. It should be the health of the project status. What are the challenges? What are the blocks? What are the risks? How are you going to mitigate those risks? What are those dependencies? These are the things that should be called out in the weekly report. And ensure that a customer reads it. Don't just send it and say, I have sent my report, my job is over. Let it not be another routine job that you're doing. Right? Like the guy in the school goes and rings the bell every 1 hour. Right? Let it not be that job. Like the postman who drops the envelope in the house, like the newspaper guy who throws the newspaper every day, or the milk guy who comes and gives you the milk packet every day. This should not be a job like that. This is not a routine job. It is a responsible job. Ensure that the customer reads and opens it. If necessary, tell him, boss, I want to have a call with you to discuss the status report. I sent you the status report today morning. Have you read it? Can we have a call today at 12 o'clock? I want to review it. Then he will take the seriousness, understand the seriousness of the status report. Otherwise, it will become another routine mail which has gone into his inbox. He would not even bother to open it. So please bring in that seriousness into the customer's mind. And then RAID review. What is a RAID? As a project manager, you should be, as part of your charter, in your charter file, you should have a RAID sheet. It is there. I don't know why you people are still not open. Risks, assumptions, issues, and dependencies. All these four should be highlighted at different stages of the project and maintained as a log in your charter, so that it is there for you to review at any point of time. If there is a risk, you foresee a risk. What is that risk? Did you bring it up to the concerned person? When did you bring it up? What action has been taken? What is the current status? After 3 months also, I should know what you did 3 months back on a particular risk, whether it was called out or not. So that there is no debate. No, you did not tell me, or you told me, I told you. Those stories will not be there if it is there in the log. What are the assumptions that you have taken for this project, or the customer has taken for the project? Assumptions are assumptions at the end of the day. Inverted commas. What is an assumption? I always say simple. Assumption is making an ass of you and me. If you assume, then you are making an ass of you and me. Simple. So assumptions don't work. Assumptions should be qualified with facts. These are the assumptions that I have considered for the project. Why have I assumed that these things are there? Qualify it and make the customer sign off to that. Yes, I agree with you. These are the assumptions. What are those? Some of those assumptions could be, okay, there is no integrations in this project. If you don't write that and make the customer agree, tomorrow down the line, he'll say, no, I did not know that integrations are not part of the project. I thought integrations were part. Tally is there, Tally has to be integrated. Or if integrations is part of the project, in the pre-sales document, it is mentioned integrations. How many APIs? Is it unlimited, or any X number of integrations have been qualified? That qualification has to be done at the beginning of the project itself. Was, okay, there is integration with SAP, but there will be 8 touch points, there will be 10 touch points, there will be 20 touch points. That has to be, that assumption has to be clarified. Reports are there. How many reports? Dashboards. How many dashboards? 4 dashboards, 5 dashboards, 2 dashboards. Reports. One dashboard can be 100 reports. One dashboard can be 10 reports. If you don't keep the number, if you say 4 dashboards, the customer says, yes, I want only 4 dashboards. But those 4 dashboards can end up in 200 reports. Can we do it? We cannot do it. So qualify again. Was 4 dashboards with 30 reports is what I'm going to give you as part of this project. Are these reports standard, or are they normal, out of the box reports? That also should be qualified. How many are standard, how many are custom built? Has to be qualified. So these are the assumptions that you should be aware of before the project starts. Similarly, what are those issues like risks? Qualify those issues, identify those issues, raise those issues, see those issues are resolved, and what action has been taken should be there in your log. And if there are any dependencies, every dependency must be called out and must be there in the log. This is something again which we are missing. I think project managers should start doing this. right? Okay, so similarly, when it comes to a QA role, I think we may have to have a more detailed discussion. But yes, like I said, the QA role doesn't start at the end of the project. QA role starts the day the project starts. Like like we said, going forward, every requirement gathering session a consultant has with the customer, a concerned QA has to be assigned to it, and QA should be part of those requirement gathering calls. He should have an understanding of the business, what is the requirement is. Only then he can be a successful QA for the project. The project manager should be part of the calls from the day one. And once the QA is there, once the BRD is completed, the QA has to write the test cases. And then if there are anything that the QA feels are missing from that stage till the development stage, those dependencies should be closed before they reach the stage of actual testing. And during testing, let it not be a my friend, we are friends, let us not uh, what do you call expose each other kind of attitude. I think we are professionals. I am a QA, you are a developer. Let us restrict our actions to this role. Outside, we are friends. Once we go out of the four walls of the office, we are good friends. No problem. But within the four walls, let us behave professionally. Raise those tickets, raise those bugs on Zoho, on the project management tool that you are working on, and see that action is taken on that. We should do that. We are not doing that. Still, we are not doing that. We are still sending bugs on Teams, bugs on WhatsApp, orally communicating. This is there. Bhai, kar do, isko solve kar do. I don't know. Still, we are not doing it. We should stop. And Nikhil, I think you should be taking the ownership for this as a QA lead. All QAs must be. Once we get the new project management tool, this is something that we are going to be very strict. And if we see anybody not following it, it will lead to disciplinary action. Okay, so that is, and of course, identifying those bugs, listing them, using the tracker, and see that those bugs are resolved. Reduce, ensure that repeat bugs are not there, right? Understanding of the domain again is very important for a QA. Otherwise, I don't think you'll be a successful QA. Domain understanding is a compulsory thing. Like I said, for a consultant, even QA should understand how a domain operates. Otherwise, you'll not be able to create those test cases. You'll be only doing a chat GPT and giving those test cases which will have no relevance, right? You should understand the domain. Okay, coming to what is an ideal Scrum call. Uh, Ideally, we should have two types of Scrum calls. Today, we are having only one type of Scrum call. For few projects, we might have the second type also. What we have is a daily Scrum call, which is a very high level discussion about the projects. Probably we spend 5 or less than 5 minutes. Some projects could be a little more than 5 minutes. But ideally, it should be 5 to 10 minutes that we discuss on each project, where we discuss what did you complete yesterday, what are you working on today, what is slowing you down. Okay, these are the three things, right? Focus things that are very critical for the project to be moving forward for the day. What did I do yesterday? Did I face any blockers? What I'm going to do today? Are any blockers going to affect me today? And from the three roles, consultant, project manager, tech lead, all three of you will have to discuss it from these perspectives on a daily basis. And then we must have one weekly governance call project wise. Now, every day we do all the projects together in 1 hour. Probably on Monday you will pick up two projects, Tuesday another two projects, Wednesday another two projects. Till Friday, you will try to complete all the big projects, right? And then do a detailed review, which will be lead to probably 1 hour. It could be 45 minutes, it could be half an hour, depending on the health of the project, where you do a detailed analysis of the project. Sorry. So what do? We try to understand the delivery status, what is the sprint progress, what are the open tasks, right? What are the blockers, any risks and escalations, anything, any timeline being, issues are there on timelines, any integration issues, any financial review which needs additional effort, any CR to be raised, right? Whatever we discussed, all those things will come into the detailed discussion during the weekly governance call that we have on the project. UAT, SIT status and action items, right? Action items is very important because after every call, there's no point in having a review if you don't have an action item with an owner for that action. If that is not there, then there is no point in doing any review. Today what is happening is every day we do a review, we discuss so many things, and we discuss the same thing again tomorrow, and we discuss the same thing again after tomorrow, and we discuss the same thing again next week, because no action items are being identified and no owners are being identified for that action items. When you have a detailed Scrum call, then I think there will be a minutes of the meeting that will be shared. There will be those action points based on the day's discussion or the week's discussion, and people who are responsible for those actions to close those points will be identified. Then it becomes, when the next week you go through the minutes of the meeting of the previous governance call, you will be able to first go through the minutes of the meeting and then get into the actual review of the project. When you go through the last week's project minutes, you will see, okay, last week we discussed these things. You were responsible for these things. What is the status? And then get into the actual project. So that is how we normally should do a Scrum call. We will be moving to this from the current status where we are doing a daily Scrum call at a very high level. We will now start moving into weekly Scrum call also, which will be a more detailed Scrum call where the entire team will be involved. If it's a Rockland's Scrum, from Ashwini to Yashwant to Lakshmi, everybody will be part of this call. And everybody will be allowed to voice their concerns. Then Anjali will not be able to hide anybody. Aisha will not be able to hide anything, because everybody is there in the call. Right? Nikhil cannot just come and say what he wants to say. Vamshi, Vikas will be there. No, he is not telling this is the truth. So that is the purpose of, that's not the purpose, that's not happening, but it gives visibility to the entire team of a project. Today, the ownership is restricted to this room for a project. Every resource in the project should feel the ownership, should feel the responsibility that I am responsible equally for the success of this project. Whatever small piece I am working on the project, but I am also equally responsible for the success of the project and the organization. When that feeling comes into everybody's mind, I think there you will see more positive results happening, and you will see more successful projects. Next. Some of these things that we need to identify early. If you don't identify early, you will end up paying later for that. Just a summary of whatever we discussed. First thing is, we discussed about scope creep. Project managers, please flag this immediately. Right? These are all items that needs to be flagged. Anything that you see that is going to affect the margin, anything that is going to affect the timeline, anything that is going to affect the resource utilization, flag them immediately. Right? Because it is going to drain on our, it's going to be a drain on our finances. Second thing is UAT extension, another problem, common problem in almost every project that we see. We say 1 week UAT, we end up doing 4 weeks UAT. We say 3 weeks UAT, we end up doing 8 weeks UAT. So this is something that must be addressed. It has a cost impact because it has a timeline impact. So please ensure that we don't allow these things to happen. Every extra week burns budget and trust both. Not only the budget, trust of the customer also is lost. Why is it getting delayed? What is the reason? Do we know? If a customer is extending a UAT, what is supposed to be in 1 week, if he is doing for 2 weeks, why? Because probably somebody does not know how to do the UAT. Not everybody is doing the UAT. Or the bugs that they raised are not getting resolved. There could be some reason. Identify that reason and address that reason. I think then your UATs will be, and have a clear expectation discussion with the customer before the UAT starts. What is your expectation from a UAT? It should be done in the kickoff meeting itself. Reiterate it just before, even before the UAT, and tell him, boss, the purpose of this is this. I want the outcome of this UAT is this. How it is going to help you when you go live. If you don't do the UAT properly today, you will suffer. I will not suffer. Put that kind of thing into his mind. I'm sure they will understand it, and then they will give it the seriousness that it requires. Right? Integration dependencies. Again, another area where we fail, because these are all dependencies from the customer side, UAT customer side, integration from the customer side. We have done whatever we need to do. Our APIs are ready, but then he is not consuming it. He is not giving his APIs for us to test it, right? But why? What can be done? How do you delay? Arrest this delay? How do you make the customer understand it? And what is the penal action at the end of it if nothing works? So, project manager should be on top of it. It must be red flagged. Client approval delays, anything. It could be milestone achieved, not signed off. UATs are not signed off. Your BRD not signed off. All these things affects the project, and then it must be immediately highlighted. Obviously, it is money. Please remember, who pays our salaries? I keep talking about this multiple times, but still, there are many new faces. So, who pays? Who pays? Chandan. Chandan pays the salaries. Divya pays the salaries. It's the clients who pay our salaries. Please understand that. And if those milestones, if those sign-offs, if those approvals are not in place, we cannot raise the invoice, and if we cannot raise the invoice, the money is not recovered. If the money is not recovered, we cannot pay the salaries. As simple as that. So that's the importance of getting the things approved on resource burnout. We discussed this. Overutilized spokes produce errors and eventually burnout, and missing test data can lead to UAT failure. Teams cannot test what they cannot simulate. It's a very standard statement. What they cannot simulate, they cannot test. Obviously, it's a fact of life. So ensure that there is no data that is missed. Please that all the data is available for them to test properly. If it is not there, project managers will have to raise the standard red flag. Standardized Scrum template, what needs to be done? Obviously, if you focus on these 6 boxes, I think our Scrum calls can be very, very simple, easy, and something which will make our projects more successful as an implementation partner. What is this? First is delivery status. What is the sprint progress? What are the task completion? And what is the plan versus actual? Are we on track? Second is risks and blockers. What are those client blockers? What are those internal blockers? And what are those escalation triggers? How do we ensure that all these things are taken care of? Third is UAT status, defect log, sign-off status, environmental health, the platform health. Resource utilization, over-utilization of members, bench review, allocation changes. Project managers should be on top of it. CR impact, new efforts, new requests, what is the impact of that additional effort that they're going to put financially and on timeline. And any action items, who is responsible for it, by which date it has to be created, and what is the priority of the action items. If there are 10 action items, what is P0, what is P1, what is P2, must be identified. Who is responsible for it, and by when it has to be closed. Must be there after every Scrum call. Right? If we follow these 6 things for every project during the Scrum call, just restricted to these things, we can cut the story out of it. Then our discuss will be more on specific things. We will not be talking around the bushes and not talking to the point. Today we do in many projects, we talk around the project but not the core issues. We avoid the core issues because they are difficult to speak, difficult to digest, other person might react, so we avoid those tough things. We only talk about the easy things on a project, which should be avoided, right? And this is what I said, daily Scrum call, 1 hour, 5 minutes for each project. Weekly governance, where we discuss the governance review, we do the financial review and the escalation review. These things will be done in the weekly call. These 3 things will be done. I think our Scrum calls will be more, more matured, more project oriented, success oriented, margin oriented, and customer oriented. If these things are taken care, I think our projects will be successful. Let us make our Scrum calls much more governance oriented than storytelling, debating, blaming each other. From that, we'll have to move to the more structured kind of discussion where we ensure that we follow these basic principles and ensure that our Scrum calls are more useful and successful. Just again, a quick summary, what a consultant will do, what a senior developer will do, what a project manager will do. Consultant is focused on the functional and client. A senior developer is focused on technical and infrastructure related things. Project manager is focused on governance and finances, right? Obviously, finance is related to timelines. What are the key topics? Consultant will focus on BRD, BRG, configurations, UAT, scope, training is what the consultant will focus on. What will the project senior developer focus on? Development, integration, defects, deployment, migration, right? All those things. And a PM will be more focused on timelines, risks, assumptions, issues, dependencies, CR, resources, and budget, right? And red flags, functional consultant, any new requests, any unassigned UAT, any approval delays, consultant red flag, any API failures, system down, critical bugs, anything that is affecting from a technical perspective, any dependencies from the customer in terms of those templates, you will red flag it. And a project manager will red flag if there is a scope creep, if there is a burnout, billing delays, approval delays, impacting the finance of the project, a project manager will red flag, right? Like I said, a Scrum call is not a status report. Let not the Scrum call be a status report, right? It is a decision engine where we take decisions. We have meaningful discussion, meaningful insights of a project which can lead to meaningful discussion, decisions. And then if it is run with discipline, and I'm sure it will protect our margins. When it protects our margins, which means we are protecting the timelines. When you are protecting the timelines, which means we are protecting our resources because they are working within those timelines. And obviously our team and our client relationships will be good. So I think if these things are kept in mind, I'm sure we can avoid most of the headaches that we have today in terms of particularly timelines and scope creep. Okay. Any questions? No questions? Any questions from the team online? Chandrapal, Anurag, sorry, Abhishek, Jishna, Chinmay, any questions? Are you on mute? You could hear me, right? I didn't check that. From the beginning, you did not hear me, right? Which one? Only the consultant part we didn't hear. Yes, yes, yes. That's why we are now going to make you the project manager. Selective hearing we have. Yeah, even I have the same problem. Whatever you said, I did not hear. Okay, if there are no questions, then we conclude today's session. And next week, we'll meet again on a different topic. Thank you, everybody. And Pavan,